All right. So thank you so much, Bill Patton, for joining me. I am Shae Dunn with the Court Ready podcast, and I am super excited that I have Bill to share ideas with, to learn from, and to share his story with you all. So before we get deep into it, because Bill is a wealth of knowledge and I really look forward to this discussion. But before we get deep into it, I just wanted to share a couple of facts that I found about Bill. Bill has been teaching tennis for well over 30 years, and he is an accomplished player himself. I'm going to let him do more of introductions, but he is also a published author and a very studied professional in the brain health and in this area of neuroscience. So, without any further ado, Bill, I'd love for you to provide a little bit more background.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of my origin story is that I've always been interested in the brain, and largely it's because my brain was always a little different than everybody else's, uh,
Understood.
and people were always trying to figure out what made me tick because I had problems. So.
Sure.
Um, and then everything kind of came really intensified in 2010 when I was in a pretty catastrophic car accident and had a pretty serious brain trauma. And so my brain
Mhm.
injury was about a 6 month recovery.
Wow.
And at that time, I had to sort of stop and reevaluate every little thing I do. Um,
Mm.
and so I started to really study a lot more about the mind body connection, even
Mhm.
more than I had already. I mean, I was always interested in it. It always been a really big part of my teaching of tennis. Um, but now I'm trying to apply it more to my everyday life, and I was excited that one of your themes is longevity. And,
Yeah.
so I'm really big into that. And I think that, there's a lot to share to help people not only perform better on a tennis court today, but also to have higher quality of life and longer, better life that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. You're totally speaking my language. Similarly, I have done my fair share of studies about the brain, not nearly to the extent that you have. And so that's part of why I'm super fascinated with the work that you've done. And it's a grand opportunity for not only me, but all the people that we'll be sharing this information with in this podcast with. But okay, it's really fascinating that there's such a connection, such a strong connection between our minds and our bodies and everything else from there. Prior to that specific event, my studies were more about how to effectively utilize our brain. I think we all comprehend that you know our feelings are connected to our performance,
Mm-hmm.
and also vice versa. And so, it's like, how do you kind of hack that system to,
Uh,
you know, to get,
Hack.
yeah, I hate using that
Yeah,
word, but,
no, it's not a
how do
favorite of
you,
mine, but I get what you mean, right?
how do
Yeah.
you leverage your
I
resources
like
in,
Leverage. That's a good one,
okay,
and I love that series on TV too. If you haven't seen Leverage, it's a really
I
good
have
one. But
not.
anyway, binge watch that one. But um,
Okay.
okay, so I think and so I guess that was your first question. How do we start to
Yes.
leverage it? And
Yes.
the, there's good news and bad news.
Hmm.
The good news is there's a lot of really powerful stuff that you can do. The
Okay.
bad news is you've probably heard it all before.
Sure. I
So,
suspected that might be the case.
yeah, so there's a lot to be said for all the stuff your mother and your grandmother and your uncle and your grandpa told you.
Hmm.
Because there's and there's a lot of stuff in ancient wisdom that just really turns out to be true. And
Sure.
neuroscience is now affirming those things. So
Hmm.
um, Like for instance, your parents hopefully taught you to say please and thank you. Well, it
Maybe.
turns out having a gratitude practice is really good for your brain. Um, and you know, part of the way that plays out too is that I believe that part of what makes people's mental game stronger is when they're really enjoying playing.
Hmm. Right.
And part of that comes from this perspective of, oh, look, I get to play tennis today.
Yes, indeed.
And without trying to guilt my players, I have matter of factly told them that there's a kid in a hospital bed that would really love to lose this match 6-0 6-0 today.
Right.
So, if
Wow.
you're going to do better than that and be upset, then you probably, yeah, maybe you can trade places with that kid.
Talk
Um,
about perspective. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So, just be, I think so starting with gratitude of,
Hmm.
hey, I get to do this. So if I get to do it, then, I'm going to do whatever I can to enjoy as much of it as I possibly can. So that's
Right.
that's one thing. Um, the other one is I highly recommend a book, and I think it might still be near the very top of Amazon right now, called Atomic Habits.
I've read
And
that one.
it's a great book, and
It is.
it's chock full of neuroscience, but it's
Mhm.
presented in a very down to earth, easy to read, folksy kind of a writing, and it's there's stories behind it, so
Right.
that's also good. But you know today, if you there watching this now, today, start a new habit. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and and then what you can start to do then is stack your habits.
Love it.
So like for instance, every morning when I get up, I drink 16 to 24 ounces of water every morning, but I didn't used to. Right. I mean,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I that's a recently added stack to my morning routine.
Right.
um, and part of and so your day starts when you wake up.
Hmm.
Right? And then,
Yeah.
but you've prepared for the day by how well you've slept. Now,
Yes.
let's back up for a second. So, if there was one thing that I was going to say I would like uh, to see you do, is to improve your sleeping habits. And now,
Hmm.
because they used to say perfect practice makes perfect, but now it's believed that perfect practice and a good night's sleep
Yep.
makes perfect. Well, and I don't even really believe in perfect, um,
Mhm.
but the idea there. So it's really interesting because when you sleep, you go through your REM, and that's where you process the things of the day and whatnot. And then
Mhm.
during that time, your brain is picking out the greatest hits of the day to add to your playlist. And
Yeah.
then when you go into deep sleep, then that's when your greatest hits have been um, downloaded into your permanent resident available memory. So, making sure that you are getting a good amount of sleep, is vital to being able to play well on the day, but
Mhm.
also to take the lessons that you're learning and get the most out of them. And
Yep.
so that's huge. It's a really, really big thing. And I am also available to coach people if they need help getting better sleep.
I really love that, Bill. I've noticed in my play personally, I've noticed that I perform a lot better when I've had a good night's rest, and there's a very noticeable difference when I haven't. But like you said, that's sort of a micro level view. But one thing that I don't know that anyone gives a ton of attention to is the long term effects of, whether it be lack of sleep, but as you mentioned, so I started reading on, those phases of sleep. that you described, and they're all
Mm-hmm.
super important because, one gives you, and I'm sorry, I'm not, well versed in that area. I've just, done a little reading, but I do
Mm-hmm.
know that, one may leave you feeling more rested, and one, is for recovery for your body and, your cells.
Yep.
And, another phase of sleep, like you mentioned, embeds the processes of the day or the things you've learned into your memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so without it, you're less able to record and to be able to recall the things that you've learned. It's basically, you may take a lesson and it's not super effective. Like, one of the things I heard you say, I don't know if it was in a YouTube or on your social media pages, but you talked about the bioavailability of nutrients. And, I would imagine
Mm.
it a similar concept, right? You can eat all the best foods, but if your body is not absorbing the nutrients for one reason or another, then, it's not as useful.
Yeah, it's a
So,
good analogy. Yeah, and then another thing that happens in deep sleep also is that your brain dumps the toxins and the waste
ah,
from your brain. So,
okay.
um, and so that goes into your lymphatic system, which empties out into your lymphatic system, and then you have a cleaner brain. But so
I
one
see.
thing that has been said, and I think I believe it, is that each day that you experience brain fog is one day closer to dementia.
No
So
kidding.
it's something to be
Wow.
taken very seriously. So if you're having a brain
Hmm.
fog incident, as many people do, then
Hmm.
take that seriously and catch up on your sleep and
Right.
do other things to support detoxing. Like I just got done with my
Yeah.
roasted dandelion tea right now.
Beautiful. Bill, I don't know that I've really understood brain fog until I no longer had it. So I think I
Mm,
mentioned to you that my husband and I went vegan. We're no longer strictly vegan. We can talk about that another day. But in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, we had so much time on our hands that we binge watched a lot of YouTube. And one of the
mm,
recommended videos was one related to dementia. And because we had some family history, my husband and I have both been particularly interested in how to avoid it if at all possible. So, of course,
mm,
one of the plant based doctors was there describing how um, animal based products tend to, add more to the toxins in your body that end up deposited in the brain. But but at any rate, fast forward, what I it was about a week after we went vegan, and or plant-based is probably the better descriptor there. But as soon as we started eating right, all of a sudden a lot of wonderful things started happening. We started sleeping
mm,
better and waking up a lot more refreshed, and it was just really incredible. Like, I don't know that I fully understood what brain fog was until I no longer had it. It was like I just woke up one
mm.
day and was like, wow, my eyes have been opened. So, you mentioned brain fog, and I don't know that I suspect that a lot of people are probably walking around with it and not even aware, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
and yeah, people sort of get used to the state that they're used to. So if they're
that's right.
some days are better than others. They've had really bad brain fog, and then the next day they have a little bit more clarity. Then that becomes their new normal, and they think that that's even though they're having less brain
That's the
fog,
best. Yeah.
that that's an improvement. So yeah, it
Hmm.
is all relative. Um, yeah, I've noticed a huge difference since I've gone from 5 hours and 46 minutes of sleep a night to 7 hours and
Hmm.
15 minutes. So it's an hour and a half more on average. Um,
Right.
And so that's something
Yeah,
that
but
I've
it
been able
allows you
to
to add
improve
to
over the
all of
last
the
year.
buckets. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
It allows you to add more to every phase of sleep when you just add more
Hmm.
sleep. So yeah. So I was going to ask you something else based on some of your YouTube that I watched. You mentioned something about the roles of the student and the role of the coach. Can you talk to us a little bit about, how a student can um, be a better student? And I also noticed, which I really appreciate, that you sometimes have tips for other coaches as well. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. I mean, I think the first thing that I would say is own your own learning. So
Hmm.
be your own agent. Um, I've heard people say, a certain person or group of people have no agency, and I'm like, no, you listening to this have agency in your own life. So seize on that. Own your own learning, and think of it that way. I what do I want to learn about how I play tennis, and then
Hmm.
find a coach that will work collaboratively with you, because
Right.
um, there are some coaches that really are great listeners, and they are also very well skilled in teaching you anything you want to learn. And there
Hmm.
are many more coaches who are not such great listeners. And when you come to your lesson, they run it like it belongs to them.
Right.
So yeah, don't go to somebody else's lesson.
Mm,
Go to your
that's
lesson.
incredible.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. Don't
Yeah.
go to somebody else's lesson. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, in that case, no, no sorries. I mean, we're having a conversation. It's great. I'm enjoying it. So yeah. I mean, I see exactly your point. Sometimes, and that actually feeds into another question that I had for you because in another video,
Before you
you,
ask that, before you
yes.
ask that question, can I add one more
Uh-huh.
thing? I'd like to add one more thing.
Yeah,
So one thing
please.
that's very interesting to me is that about 100% of the time when I get a new student, that student is not ready for the idea that they're the ones that run the lesson.
Mm,
So I get people and they go, oh well, you figure out what's wrong with me and fix me, and I'll do whatever you
yes.
say. And I'm like,
Right.
no, no, you have to understand what you need. You have to begin to discover what it is that you need, and you need to think through what's the next logical step, and then we will collaborate. I will help you discover your expertise in that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will own
Right.
it. Otherwise,
Right.
so the difference is, like, there's a medical model that people go by where the student is the patient, and so then they go to the doctor
Mm-hmm.
because they're sick, you know,
Yes.
and then the doctor will administer medicine, and then hopefully they will become
Mm-hmm.
well. Um,
Yep.
which is different than the coaching model. The coaching model is that the person in and of themselves has everything that they need to succeed.
Right.
Um, and then it's the coach's job to help facilitate that coming out. Now, and I'll finish with this, is that the word education comes from the Latin root educos, which means
Mm,
um, to draw from within. So, so the educator is the one who helps the student draw from within them the stuff that makes them good.
right. Wow. Let me tell you why that's amazing. So, first of all, my next question that I had teed up for you, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was a perfect segue. My next question was that in your YouTube videos, you drew a parallel between the student or the athlete and the coach as a patient doctor scenario. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, it's perfect that you went there because I couldn't agree more. As a matter of fact, I tell friends and family specifically regarding their physical health, when they approach their physical health, you know, sometimes we go to the doctor because we have pain, but the presence of pain is not based on the absence of pills or some thing like
Mm.
that. Like, I prefer to view it as like cause and effect. What is the root cause of this effect that I'm having? And if you can get to the bottom of that, then generally speaking, you should be able to eliminate whatever challenge it is that you're
Hmm.
facing. And sometimes,
Interesting.
that may involve a trip to the doctor because your doctor has more, broader knowledge base to help you identify uh, the causes, right, or
Right.
potential causes. But ultimately, if you're really looking for if your goal is overall health, then it's basic stuff, like you said early on in our conversation. It's diet, exercise, sleep, these things that we've been told our entire lives. Um,
Hmm.
and if you're experiencing an effect on the tennis court that's, hey, I'm losing matches, then okay, that's a broad thing. Can we pinpoint where things may be going wrong? And if it's, volleys, or if it's, some specific stroke or something, then yeah, we can target that area. But, sometimes it's a little bit deeper. And, I hate to be so heady and introspective, but sometimes it's more than simply the ability to execute the stroke. There's a deeper reason that we're not executing. Maybe we're rushing, or we're being too hasty, or you know
Hmm.
maybe we're anxious or something like that. And there are other factors that we
Yeah,
bring
I
with us.
deal with that a lot. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I
definitely. And this is
go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Okay, good. So I because there's this story that I've been holding in my head for a moment, and I've been pretending really well to listen to you while you were talking, but I really want to tell the story.
Tell
So,
the story,
um,
Bill.
okay, good. So I had this woman who had been taking lessons with me, and so she brought her husband, right?
Hmm.
Because she was having such good success that she brought him along, and then his first words to me are, can you help me with my backhand? I have a bad backhand,
Mm.
and I said, well, no, I can't because when you say I have a bad backhand, there are a couple of different things that are wrong there, okay? Because when you say
Yeah.
I have, that's ownership. You're
Hmm.
owning that backhand. And when you call it bad, it means you're involved in this subjective judgment game, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, I'm sorry. I can't help you with your bad backhand." Right? Now,
Mm.
if you can say I used to have a bad backhand, right? Then
Right.
then I can help
Right.
you.
Then we have
So
a place to start. Yeah.
yes. Well, so then here's the funny thing that happens. So I start to look at his backhand, and over the course of about 30 shots, he proceeded to do 10 different things poorly. So he had 10
Mm.
different things that he did on his backhand that didn't work well. And then he would do them alternately. So
Right.
he would make this mistake, then he would make that mistake, then he makes mistake number one over again, but then he would do number three and four and five,
Yeah.
and then he would do number two again, and six and seven, and it would and I'm watching
So this
this,
guy's all over the place.
and honestly, I prayed, I prayed, I was like, God, you have to help me here because I didn't see an entry into that system. Because
Right.
if I work with him on one, he's going to do the other
You'll be
9
constantly
alternately.
chasing. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'll just be chasing mice here, you know. So
Mhm.
so I continued to just wait and watch for a little bit, and then all of a sudden he hit one very nicely, and I said, "Yeah, do that."
Oh, I bet he loved
And
that.
well, okay, now see, it sounds laughable. It sounds laughable, and everybody laughed. Everybody's like, "Well, that's ridiculous. Wait, we're paying you for that kind of advice?"
No,
And
but that's what he needed.
but that's how your but that's how your brain works. I mean, what
Exactly.
you need one instance of doing something
Mhm.
the way that you want to do it, and then you can
Yeah.
repeat that. So,
Yeah, because
in the
it's more
course
about
of about
feel.
yeah, I mean, and that's where the player has to own it. Yes, they have to feel it, they
Mhm.
have to know it, they have to understand it. It can't be something that's enforced on them from the outside. We don't drill a hole
Yep.
in people's head and put a funnel and then leak the information in there. Um, so but what proceeded to happen was that, 1 in 10 times he could hit the shot that he wanted, and then it was 2 out of 10, and then five, and then once he got to the point where he could do 8 or 9 out of 10, then he was on his way. Because in an hour, you're not
Yep.
going to get to 10 out of 10 necessarily. So
Yep.
I think one of the big problems that people have is that they have a belief that there is a perfect shot that they can hit, and
Mhm.
that perfect shot is imminently repeatable again and again, and that if they're not
Right.
able to do that, then there must be something wrong with them. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm reading a new book called How We Learn to Move by Rob Gray from Arizona State University, and it's pretty
Mm.
challenging. And
Okay.
his premise is that variability is a good thing. That variability actually protects you against many things, especially overuse injuries. So there's always going to be
Ah,
some very slight differences in how you do things. There is not a perfect shot.
sure.
There's
Right.
a shot, a stroke that's appropriate to this incoming ball,
Mhm.
and you may approach the best way to hit that, but you are often not going to be hitting that ball back in the most perfect way.
Mhm.
And when you can accept that, then you're
Mhm.
probably on your way to feeling a lot more confident in how you play.
Right. Yeah, I can be on board with that. I absolutely can. Because there are going to be scenarios where your brain takes over. You don't really have time to make an educated or, a decision in the sense that we know it, in the way that we understand it. I'll give you an example. As a kid, I was a bit tomboyish, used to ride bikes like crazy. And, as you can imagine, through the woods and, anyhow, I fell a lot. I fell off the bike sometimes, etc. So that said, a couple years ago, I went on an ATV excursion with some of my colleagues, and unfortunately, don't know whose fault it was. There are different narratives here, but the bottom line is that I had an accident. Kind of went off the side of the embankment, I separated from my bike basically
Shay, I
and
lost you.
narrowly missed a tree.
Hi, everybody. I
Uh
lost
oh,
you
I
for a
lost
second.
your video. Yeah, okay, you're there. Yay, glad you're back.
I'm here.
Okay, good deal, good deal. So,
So
but I
you
don't know.
you
Apparently,
had an ATV accident, yeah.
yes, yes. And apparently, so I narrowly missed a tree in the process. So I go off to the right, off a hill, over a hill. And there was only one person behind me, and she witnessed the entire thing. And what she told me was that it appeared that I jumped off of the bike, off of the ATV. And I barely remember it. I mean, when I fell, I wasn't unconscious,
Mm.
unconscious or anything, but jumped off the bike and I rolled. The point is, I wouldn't have had time to plan all of that out. I remember the moment when I knew that I'd lost my balance and that I was going down. But as far as like how I
Hmm.
felt, I think it was just a matter of self-preservation that was born of
Hmm.
experience from 40 years ago, you know? So
Okay,
I just think
there's
that,
so much to
there's
know. This is
wisdom
a great story. This is a great story because some of the stuff that I'm going to unpack from your story is going to blow some people's minds because it blew my mind. So,
okay.
all right. So you know the experience of you've fallen, but it happened so quick you didn't realize that you'd fallen until you were on the ground,
Right. Yes.
right? So it's almost like you had. It's like, how did I get here, right?
It's like an out of
So
body experience. Yes.
correct. So here's something to consider. All right, everything that you see has already happened because there's a
Yes.
4/100ths of a second between an image read going through your eyes and the time that it goes into your brain.
Yes.
So
Okay.
your brain, so everything you see has already happened. And some people have
Oh my
slower reaction
gosh.
times than others. But your
I see. I see.
brain tricks you into believing that
That it's
that
real
is
time.
happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's not. It has already happened. It's in the past, but you're experiencing it now. So that explains how people suddenly are hurt and they don't realize how because
Right.
it happened so
Right.
quick, that it
Yes.
happened before. So anyway, that to me explains that. But now here's how this is going to apply in tennis. And I learned this from Scott Ford, who wrote a book called Playing in the Zone. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
really good book. But
Haven't read
here's
that
what
one.
happens. Here's what happens. You everything you see has happened in the past, but your brain convinces you that it's in the present. So be
Mm-hmm.
fully present with that experience, even knowing that it's in the past. Okay.
Wow.
Then, yes. Okay. Now, hold on for a second. And then you will move to the ball. And when you're moving, then you're fully present with the fact that you're moving, even though you will
Mm-hmm.
experience your moving in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but be fully present with the experience of moving.
Mm.
But you're going to a future thing, you're going to a future event, you're on your way to go make contact with the ball, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But be fully present with that moment when it comes. Because
Wow.
the vast majority of errors that I see people make is that either they're living in the past, they're holding on to a mistake from previous
Mm-hmm.
that somehow they're trying to make up for, or they're trying to
Yes.
problem solve it, or they're lost in um, subjective judgment, good shot, bad
Yes.
shot, what's wrong with
Yes.
me, what's wrong with my backhand, how
Mm-hmm.
come I missed that volley, blah, blah, blah. And, and so they're carrying stuff, right? Or they're
Yes.
in the past because they're building a checklist. Oh, my coach said, do this, this, and this. And it's like, wait a minute, the ball's gone, right?
Yep.
So I often tell people, look, put your little checklist down, drop the checklist.
Right.
So drop the checklist, drop the subjective judgments, drop the analysis, drop all of the little mental things that you do that take you away from being fully present because all of that's in the
Right.
past. You don't have time for that. Right. And then
Yeah.
be aware of what you're doing. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then don't be in a hurry. You're moving, just be
Yes.
present with the fact that you're moving. And then the but
Yep.
the next big thing that happens The other big source of errors is that people are rushing to make the future come faster than it does naturally. So
Yes,
so then
guilty.
that's when you get the moment where you've got that volley and it's right there and you're dreaming of the winner and you're already high-fiving your partner because you've just hit the winning volley, but then it goes in the net and then you go, oh, how did I do that? And it was because
Yeah.
you were ahead of things. It was you were ahead. So
Yep.
delay gratification, wait, stay fully present
Hmm.
with the shot, make the shot, win the
Right.
point, celebrate
Hmm.
after. So a little
Yep.
delay of gratification goes a long way. But those are the two major sources of all errors are not being, either carrying the past forward or
Right.
rushing to the future.
And perhaps that is a key to getting and staying in the zone, if you will, right? Because we
Mm.
we just want to be, or we need to be present. And being present is fun because you're not worried about things that happened in the past, whether they be misses or whatever. And you're also not worried about, and when I say worried, I mean you're not even thinking about the future because it's not relevant. The only thing that's relevant is right now, the shot that you're taking right now, or understanding where the ball is right now and where you should be right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And so here's my quote for that. The work only ever gets done in the present.
Mm, wow.
You
I
can't
love
you
that
can't
quote.
get anything done in the past and you can't get anything done in the future. You can only get it done right now.
Right now. I love that. And
And this
thinking
is
about anything other than
yeah.
that is judgment.
Well, I don't
Continue.
know.
I'm sorry.
There's a whole menu of things that people do other than that. So I think
Hmm.
if you stop and reflect and you go, okay, what is it that gets me not present? You know, then
Hmm.
it won't take long. You'll probably something will leap to mind pretty quickly, and so there's a good chance that's the thing you do most often. So then you can just stop and say, okay, well, when I feel the urge to do or think that way, instead,
Hmm.
I'm just going to remind myself to stay present,
Right.
just be fully
Yep.
present.
Yeah. And, honestly, Bill, that's a lot easier said than done. But one thing I have coached myself on recently is the fact that it's, first of all, doing anything other than that is slightly unbecoming. I play a lot of doubles, and my goal is to always be an effective partner and to be fun to play with, right? Because tennis is supposed to be fun. And if I'm in my own head and thinking about something other than the tennis right now, even the present moment, then I'm not being that effective of a partner. So, and like I said, it's slightly unbecoming, to be like down on yourself and all of those things. But the other
Mm,
factor to me is that, we truly have a choice in terms of our emotions. The way I put it is, I don't want to be a slave to my emotions, meaning,
mm-hmm.
okay, so I missed a shot. Now I have an option. The option is get ticked off and act out and, show my frustration, or I can just let it go and focus on the next shot because no
Yeah,
matter how
yeah,
much frustration I have, I cannot change the past. So that's it.
good. No,
Stay
I really
present.
like what you said there. No, I really like what you said there because none of that has to do with being a robot. So you are going to have emotions. I'm going to have emotions. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
Understand them, accept them, manage them. I
Right.
get
Manage them.
fantastically pissed. I'm Man, so I've got a lot of Scotch Irish in me, and so we're very angry people. And well, there's there's a lot of anytime there are Irish and Scotch people around, there's a lot of cussing that always happens, right? So
Okay.
um, no, I'm serious. If you watched
I like it.
Braveheart, remember it was the Irish guy. They were like, "What's he doing? Who let an Irishman in here?" Right? Um,
Right on.
so it's okay. I mean, so when you're having those emotions, say, okay, what am I feeling right now? What is it? Why? Right? And then,
Mhm.
okay, can I let it go? And then, yeah, I think that phrase "let it go" is really a good one. And then go, okay, well, what state do I want to be in? Right?
Mhm.
So, um, one of my favorite tennis moments ever was a quarterfinal match between Agassi and Federer, and it was a
Mm.
set apiece. And Agassi and Federer had this 25 shot rally, and it was on a break point. And so they had this long, long rally that Agassi definitively won with a winner. And the crowd was going bonkers because Agassi's up a break in the third set now against Federer.
Mhm.
And during that time, Federer did the Klingon death cry. Federer went, "Yeah."
Wow.
He was just so angry, and nobody noticed because the crowd was going nuts, and he yelled while the New York crowd was going nuts. And then he went right back to Placido Domingo. He was like, and
Love
he
it.
then won. I think he won 21 of the next 25 points or something like that. It was some just
That's
crazy amount
insane.
of points. And
Yeah.
then he won 11 of the next 13 games, and he won in 4 sets going away. He just crushed Agassi from that moment on. So
Wow.
I think it's really a great thing to let a little bit of emotion spark you.
Sure. Yeah.
It's that one big thing that can fuel
Mhm.
you, but then
Yep.
you've got to come back. But if you're just constantly angry, then that is not the way to go.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference. Our language may be lacking, or my vocabulary here might be lacking in terms of describing it. I feel like there's a difference between being angry and and internalizing this frustration. If you're angry
Mm,
that maybe you missed a shot or things aren't going your way, but then you somehow turn that, like, I guess more so it's what happens next. It's what are you going to do with this information. Really, it's you've identified something needs to change. But a
hmm
great tennis player will identify what needs to change, or how we can pivot to something new in order to get a different outcome. Because, like I mentioned early on, it's cause and effect. If I don't like these effects, then I've got to adjust the causes. There's something I can do, an adjustment that I can make. But you also mentioned the word ownership. If you own the problem, then you'll be able to do something about it. Usually, I mean,
mm.
obviously it's tennis, and
Okay,
sometimes
two
you're simply
things.
outmatched.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me break in on that. All right. So,
Okay.
do you know where all of my problems are?
Where in your head?
No, they're in the past.
Oh my goodness! Right.
Because I haven't started
Good
any
to
new
know.
problems yet, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so let your problems be in the past, and then
Mm.
move towards what you want to do. So here, I have another awesome story for you. So I had this friend, is great coach. He's an
Yep.
Australian guy, and his kid was my kid was beating his kid, and he was up a set in a break against his
Mm-hmm.
kid, and This was
Okay.
in a situation where coaching was allowed. So,
Got it.
so he goes up to his kid and he says, "All right, Eric, play better." And I'm like, "Play
Nice.
better? That's ridiculous. It's like ridiculous, right?" So anyway, so this is long ago. I didn't understand these things back then, but I wanted to play better. What kind of advice is
What
that,
kind of
right?
coaching is
And he
that?
says,
Yeah.
"Watch, just." He says, "Okay, just watch what happens next," right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, sure enough, Eric started playing better, and he played better and beat my kids in 3 sets, and like almost like it was
Wow.
nothing.
Wow.
And that's an amazing cue because isn't ultimately that's what you want to do? And if you play better, won't aren't your chances better to win? So play
Absolutely.
better. And so this is what people don't know. They don't know that they can just say,
Hmm.
"What do I want? I want to play better, right?
Right.
I want to
Right.
play my best." And so if you go in and you say, "Okay, I want to play as close to my best today as I can," you know, and what
Mm.
does that look like? What does that feel like? And then those are the cues that actually empower you to go out and do it. But what do people do instead? They do all this other stuff. They do use subjective judgments. They build checklists.
Hmm.
They have paralysis by analysis.
Yep.
Um, you know, they try to have the perfect stroke. All these different things that don't really work. But just going out and just playing your best and just saying, "Okay, I want to play really well. I want to play the best I can play today."
Right.
Here's another quick story. So when my teams are I've coached a lot of high school tennis over the years, and when my teams are playing the so-called big match,
Hmm.
one thing that I do to frame that for them, because one thing that teenagers are prone to do, and probably a lot of adults are also
Hmm.
prone to do this, is that they feel like when a match is a so-called big match, that somehow they have to play superhuman that day,
Right.
right? So
Yep.
So, before a match, I'll go to my team and I'll say, "Now look, you know, if you happen to be playing the best match of your life today, keep going.
Hmm.
Don't
Hmm. Don't
don't
stop to
stop."
notice.
Right?
Yeah.
If you happen to be playing the best, and there's a chance that one of you might play the best match of your life today. It could
Hmm.
happen,
Yeah.
right? But if you find that you are not playing the best match of your life, play the best you can play today and
Yes. Indeed.
compete at your highest level. And you know
Hmm.
what's interesting? There's a very high percentage of times that one or two players play out of their minds.
Yep.
And then also there have been times when a player is just really not on their game, but they find a way to win.
Yes.
So that kind of perspective. So the first part of that is open your mind to the idea that you could play out of your mind well today. It could
Mm.
happen.
Yeah.
And also have a contingency in case you're struggling, right?
Yep.
Well, even if I'm not playing my very best, I'm going to compete really hard. And then
Yeah.
you're sort of set. You're pretty much ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That would give me, at least, I'll speak for myself, it would give me a ton of peace going into matches. Just that, hey, I could have a great day, outstanding day where I'm doing things that I have never done before. But I could also have a day where I cannot seem to find the basic strokes or can't seem to find the
Oh,
core
don't
ball.
say that. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Don't open. No, no, no.
Don't
Don't
open
open
that
your mind up to
possibility.
that. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
So see, there's your ultimate. There's a new place of a higher level that you've never seen before,
Okay. So the
right?
range
The
is
best tennis of your life,
outstanding.
and then there's
Okay.
something slightly less than that. But don't
Okay.
don't
but it's
talk
not
yourself
that
into a
palm
bad
read.
day. No, no,
Okay,
no,
okay. Thank
no.
you.
That's not
Thank you for
allowed.
that. Thank you for that. That's and
Yeah,
as we talk about the brain and some facets of manifestation, which I do believe is real, I think it's important to have a proper mindset. So I appreciate the correction there. It's you have to specify what it is that the outcomes that we want, the outcomes that we hope
yeah,
for. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
I
don't
love it.
open the door to the things you don't want, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you there are people that you would not let in your front door, probably like the AT&T salesperson,
Right on.
Girl Scouts with cookies, they can come right in, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but the
Right.
AT&T,
So
the door-to-door solar salesman, you stay there. So
exactly. So
so
there's certain
don't,
things,
yeah,
certain
don't let
thoughts
the
you don't
door-to-door
let in.
solar salesman into your head, right? So yeah,
Right.
don't let the bad things in. You say, no, you stay out. I don't want you. And um yeah, because that's a really big part of it. Oh, there was another thing I was going to say and I forgot, but anyway, moving on.
Oh, Bill, come on. It's all good.
I mean,
It's
if
all
it's
good.
important, it'll come back.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I do want to pivot just a little bit because we're coming close to time. I want to get from you a couple of things. First of all,
Yeah,
you've written a few books. I see you've got a full scope of content on your YouTube channel, and I see you're doing a lot of work right now. What does the future hold for Bill Patton? What do you want to accomplish and what do you want to be your legacy?
my legacy. Well, yeah, okay. So first off, my goal is to live to 100 walking and talking.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
I mean, I might get hit by a bus, but
Sure. Barring that.
not tragedy notwithstanding, right?
Hmm.
If everything goes according to plan, then I would like to live to 100 walking and talking. Um,
Hmm.
I'm finishing a book called Tennis Strategy 201, and
Mm.
it's deep. It's deep in the second draft, so I don't know. It could be done by the end of the year. It's possible. Um,
Oh,
Working on a
exciting.
course with David Smith called The Complete Guide to Coaching Team Tennis, which will be
Hmm.
a video course. I
Oh, nice.
currently have a video course called Visual Training for Tennis, which also has a book called
Hmm.
by the same title. And, you know, and I think where I'm headed is that I'm hoping to, be among the people who brings the most practical neuroscience knowledge to the sporting um, uh, arena, and
Hmm.
then and mostly in tennis. So,
Hmm.
and then the next big thing that's happening is I'm going to Australia here in January, January 27th through February 13th. I'm going to Australia. I'll be training some coaches and some players, and going to do that with my friend Ryan Hanrahan there in Sydney.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. Well, I wish you the best of luck with your travels and with your book and all of your aspirations. How do you
Thank you.
recommend people find you? I know you're teaching tennis in Oakland most of the time. So, are you
Yep.
taking new students? I think you also mentioned that you do some remote learning. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I can coach people, online as well. I mean, so send me a video or set up a camera so I can see you play, and
Mhm.
yeah, I can we can, the technology these days is so good for that.
Yeah,
If you send me a video, I can draw on it and tell you, show you one little thing on your stroke that you need to do or what have you. Um,
yeah.
you can reach me at infinitevisioncoach@gmail.com, or
Mhm.
you can find my Instagram is brainsports.coach, or Oakland. dot tennis dot pro is another one. So those are probably the
Absolutely.
easiest ways to find me. Oh, and
Absolutely.
brainsports.coach is my YouTube. So please do go to my YouTube and subscribe and binge watch.
Yeah, right. Which I will continue doing. All
Awesome.
right. Any final thoughts, Bill?
Yeah, I would say, frame your thinking in the way that you want things to happen. And
Hmm.
the where we started was, you know, today start a new habit of something
Hmm.
that you want to do, that you put a time and a place on. So
Yes.
when I wake up and before I have my coffee, then I do this, right?
Right.
Or, after I read, then I do that. Or,
Hmm.
so have those in a specific time and place, and then that will help
Hmm.
you to remember to do it. And
Yes.
don't beat yourself up if you get it out of order. Because here's the funny thing: I have a morning routine, and I almost never do everything in the same order, even though I
As
have
long as it
planned
gets
to do it.
done.
As long as it gets done. I don't know how many times I have forgotten to weigh myself, and then I'm like,
Right.
why have I not weighed? And then I go back and do it, and I'm like, okay, it's done.
Now it's
So,
done. Yes. Yeah, I have a new mantra for myself, and that is completion over perfection. I noticed that
mm,
I have a
I like it.
tendency toward perfectionism, but first I just got to get it done. I can, if I have extra time, I can go back and make it better. But yeah, just got to check the
I've
box,
been.
make sure it's done.
I tell people that I have a problem with perfectionism, and nobody believes me.
How can they not believe that? I mean, just 3 minutes of chatting with you, they should know that, yeah, you care a lot about the details. It's very apparent.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing. So, we're all just human and we're having a human
Yeah.
experience right now. So, we talk about judgment, and I think
Awesome.
it's really important to, like you said, let go. Just let go. Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
Bill, you are incredible. I am so
Thank you,
stoked
Shae.
and
No, you
yeah,
are.
delighted we got to spend some time together. And listen, if you're up for it, we'll do it again. I have several other questions for you, but in the
Yeah.
interest of
Yeah.
people's time,
Yeah.
I thought we could keep
Let's
it
make
right
it a
here.
weekly thing.
Hey, why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, cool, Bill.
I've
Like
got
like I
time.
said, yeah, you can reach out to me anytime too. I know that I'm just a lay person and all of that, but as you can see, I'm super
Wait,
inquisitive. So
no, you're not just anything. You are Shay. You're super.
super
Have a
Shay.
super. Yeah, you need to go watch some Rodney Norman and have a super freaking awesome day.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
All
All
right.
right. All right. Well, I'll let you have at it, Bill. Enjoy the rest of your day and week and weekend. Yeah. And we'll chat again soon.
All right.
All right.
Take good care.
Cheers. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.